Kevin, otherwise known as Form BX257, here to bring on our old G.I. Joe toy review, and in fact a redo of one of my top 10 favorite G.I. Joes, the Helicopter Assault Trooper, the 1983 Airborne. Now Airborne first appears in comic number issue 11, where he's sort of designated as the Falcon Glider pilot, rather erroneously, but then after that, a regular infantry trooper. In cartoons, he first appears in the part 1 of A Real American Hero, the 5-part miniseries in 1983. I know a lot of people don't like the light blue because it sort of contrasts the more realistic military colors that he has on the rest of his body, but that's actually one of the reasons why I really do like this figure. It was really, even though he wasn't really the top figure, he was my go-to figure because, I mean, he's a generalist, really. He looks great anywhere. He doesn't have a specific, should be in the jungle or should be in the water or whatever. He just fits everywhere, and that's one of the nice things about the figure. Airborne to me is kind of it's too generic a name. Unfortunately, even worse is that Hasbro actually chose the name in 1990 for one of the Sky Patrol members, and that is definitely not supposed to be this particular guy. It's a brand new character, but with the same name. And speaking of names, I know Helicopter Assault Trooper sounds kind of funny because he's an airborne trooper. Putting Helicopter Assault seems like almost he's fighting against helicopters, when really it means he's a helicopter inserted infantry or helicopter operations soldier. Despite Airborne's like it or leave it color scheme, you have to admit he does have some very nice, appropriate military details, such as knee pads on a G.I. Joe for the first time. He has elbow pads, as well as this harness around his waist, which I suppose you're supposed to pretend that you can hook that up to the rope from the helicopter. Unfortunately, one detail which always bugged me is the rank chevrons. Here they're pointing downwards. Airborne comes with an XM16 attack rifle. Has a little molded on bayonet, which is actually absent on the card art, and a collapsible stock here, appropriate for a paratrooper. He comes with an assault pack with nice little molded in detail, as well as a helmet, which by its proportions, it looks like one of the old standard helmets, but instead covered with cloth, and they've added the detail of some goggles on there. Airborne is supposed to replace Grunt, because they are both infantry troopers. However, in both the cartoons and the comic books, they were pretty much used simultaneously, and one was not really phased out for the other. In fact, I think the cartoon actually seemed to prefer Grunt over Airborne. One interesting thing is that Grunt's M16 rifle, you would think that it would just be remolded for Airborne's XM16, but the XM16 is actually a completely different mold. And speaking of a different mold, here I have the example of Duke's backpack again, and Airborne's backpack, and you can see, while they're both tan, I'm not sure if this is coming out in the video, but you can see that Duke's backpack is actually kind of a little bit darker, a little bit more of a warmer color, caramel, almost. Whereas Airborne's is slightly washed out. And on mine, I'm not sure if this is true for all versions of Duke or Airborne ever released, but my Duke always seemed to have come with a plain background, whereas in the middle, Airborne's has this cross piece. And one last interesting thing about Airborne's mold is that Airborne's arms and lower legs were later reused for scrap iron, of all things. Well, that's all the time I have right now. Please check out my Facebook page for more information and behind-the-scenes photos for these reviews. Thank you for watching this video, and stay tuned for next time to see another 1980s G.I. Joe toy review. See you then.